Hello everyone and welcome back to the show. I want to start off immediately with some distressing news. I am hearing reports that Antifa has set everyone's clock ahead 15 minutes. So if it seems that the show is late, Antifa, what are you going to do? They're everywhere these days. Welcome to the show, Jayar Jackson. It being Wednesday, it wouldn't be the same if you weren't here. How's it going?
I heard George Soros set us up. Because we're complaining that the checks have been delayed, so he decided to go ahead and throw a monkey wrench into what we're trying to do here. So it works out.
It's basically if Antifa is the foot soldiers, Soros is Shredder. So it's those two really working against you. Anyway, look, we had tech problems. I don't know what to say. I'm amazed it took this long for the show to be 15 minutes late. Honestly, it should have happened 8 weeks ago. So, you know what? We had a good run. Maybe we'll start a new one today. But anyway, thank you for joining us. We do have a lot of news that we're going to do our best to get to. I want to thank
John,
those of you. Oh, what's up?
I'm sorry. I always have to interrupt with nonsense. Lift up again. Raise up. Let me see your shirt. Let me see your t-shirt. Okay, good. Because last week we had an embarrassing issue, and I thought we had the same embarrassing issue this week.
It is close.
Almost. In reality, we don't. It was a quick shot, and I was like, wait a second.
Yeah, and by the way, so obviously there's some good stuff legislation-wise. Ilhan has got some good police reform legislation she's been pushing for. The Alexandria, do you know what I saw yesterday? So they had apparently trapped people on the Brooklyn Bridge. This is like the thing that cops are doing. They're trapping people in areas. Supposedly they want them to leave, but they put them in areas where you can't get out and then tear gas them. So a tweet was going around, a video of people stuck on the Brooklyn Bridge, and AOC tweeted, "I'm headed there now." And apparently, before she got there, one side of the bridge was opened up and people could get away. But when she saw that, she thought, I'm going there. And the thing is, okay, you think, well, she's a congresswoman. The police will stop. Maybe. They theoretically could have roughed her up. But she was willing to go there to try to help people. So,
yeah, I'm trying to remember. There was some local, I don't know how local he was, but there was a politician in some area of New York that was arrested by police and roughed up and pepper sprayed, and he represents that area, and they went and took him on in. A black guy who was also apparently he's their representative or state senator or representative. Anyway, very, very surface of the story. Sorry, I didn't read it.
Yeah, well, okay. We got a lot of news that we're going to get to. Everybody who's already joined us here, please hit the like button to let people know that the stream is miraculously active and they can come join us now. And with that, why don't we jump into the news. The chief of the LA police, Michael Moore, made news not long ago when he had this to say about the protests that were going on at that point in Los Angeles.
We didn't have protests last night. We had criminal acts. We didn't have people mourning the death of this man, George Floyd. We had people capitalizing. His death is on their hands, as much as it is those officers.
Okay, so now you've probably seen this video, I'm sure, JR, that you have. He now says he misspoke and he didn't mean it, but he didn't correct himself there, and it was fairly consistent with everything else that he was saying. It kind of seems like the correction was more due to the intense criticism, which we're going to show you, rather than really believing that he had misspoken.
Well, what does it mean to misspeak? It means to misspeak when you are like when Obama was in office and you'd be talking about Osama bin Laden and you go Obama instead of Osama. That's misspeaking.
Yes.
Because the names are very similar. Change a couple of letters here and there and you're good, right? Of one letter. So that's misspeaking. But like, oh, my bad. Somehow I didn't really confuse Osama bin Laden with President Obama, but it's similar. Misspeaking is not saying something so blatant in a full sentence with a full thought that is backed by many people that hate what's going on with the protests in this country. And then later in a statement saying you misspoke, you didn't get it. And also immediately after you say the statement, then you go, I know that's some harsh words. I'm paraphrasing. I don't remember exact quote, but he said
something like, harsh. And those are strong words. Yeah. He doubled down immediately.
Acknowledging that those are strong words. When you say those are strong words, it means it's a controversial, it means people are going to not like what you just said, and they may just push back on it. But I don't care because I'm right. That's what you're saying. Stand by it. You stood by it then, but he can't, because he's probably got told by the mayor, hey, you might want to not pull that off because I'm standing right behind you. And eventually people are going to start thinking that I agree with you because I didn't do anything about this. So you need to come out and say you misspoke, or come out and apologize. Whatever it is that he told him to do, he did, but it's not very believable.
Yeah, and it's not just the statement. Like, people aren't mad because, man, the LAPD was really nailing this thing, and then he had to go and put his foot in his mouth. That's not what's happening. It shows that he's allied with those who seem to be taking this opportunity to play out all of their fantasies of being RoboCop or whatever. Let me show you one of those. I saw this going around today. These are LAPD in a cruiser chasing down teenagers and firing rubber bullets from their vehicle. Like they're tranking raptors in a Jeep on Jurassic Park. They're driving around and shooting out of their window. Take a look at this.
Jesus.
What is that? And then they drive after them. What are those kids, a lethal threat to them in their cruiser as they run as fast as they can away from these non-lethal weapons that have maimed people across the country?
Because, that'll get folks on their side. That'll make people not believe that there is police brutality, that there's not excessive force. That'll get people to really believe their side. The reality is they don't care if people believe what they're doing because they've got guns. It's the American way. So we've always believed as long as we have guns, as long as we have a means to assault you, we don't have to be right. We don't have to convince you of anything. We just have to shoot you, hurt you, and potentially kill you. That's all we have to do. Yeah. And you're gonna lay down into submission. That's what we want. We don't want agreement. We don't want peace. At least from this perspective, from the law enforcement perspective. In this case, what we want is absolute suppression.
Yeah.
That's what I'm looking for.
And by the way, someone mentioned in the chat, I mean, you saw one of those rubber bullets shattered the windshield of that car that the kids were near. What, are they gonna pay for that? They just casually did it.
Sounds like property damage. If my car got a rubber bullet, I'd be like, hey, what's going on? These thugs in black and white police cars are coming through my neighborhood and they're upending it. This needs to stop now.
And can I ask you, have you seen the video of the from the top, the crowd of cops walking down the street past the car? Have you seen that video?
I've seen many that are similar.
It's a crowd. There are many. Yes, that's true. It's a crowd of dozens of cops in a block, basically, like a thick block of people. And they walk, and it has to go, because there's so many people, they have to go around a car. And as they go by, there's no protesters nearby. They're just moving down the street. One of the cops, as he passes by the window, starts smashing the window of the car.
You know why?
It's happening all over.
It's like a starved attack dog. Mm-hmm. You don't feed him. You keep slapping him on the face. You keep him in the cage, slap him on the face, hit him on the nose, give him a morsel of food, slap him on the nose. And he's so pent up with anger and energy to come and get revenge for his life that has been put in this kind of position, he's willing to attack. So when they're roving down the street and they're looking for something, like there's no humans to hit, I got to hit something. Let me hit a window. Mm-hmm. Like their aggression has to be released. Yet we talk about this uncontrollable anger and looting and rioting of the protesters, right? They have an unsatiable anger and bloodthirst is what we're being told. But in reality, we see videos of what else is going on. Sure, there's plenty of angry people on the protesting side. But when you're supposed to be trying to quell the situation, breaking windows, what does that get you? It gets you this energy rush, this release of aggression that you've got built inside of you.
Yeah. Yeah, and when we have credible footage of undercover cops breaking windows and things like that, we see this, all the property damage that they're doing, let alone all the stuff about the bricks being planted and everything. The fact that the media is so loath to admit the obvious, which is the cops want you to believe that there's more damage than is actually being done so that they can justify doing whatever it is that they want to do. That is the big story of all of this, and it's being missed. Okay, Absolutely. Let's turn to a little bit more on Michael Moore. The LA Police Commission had their first meeting since the protests began. And it was, because of social distancing, it was an online meeting. And I don't think it went exactly like Police Chief Michael Moore wanted.
Black Lives Matter defund the police. I find it disgusting that the LAPD is slaughtering peaceful protesters on the street. I had two friends go to the protest in Beverly Hills a couple days ago, and the protest was peaceful. So the police showed up with their excessive violent force, shooting rubber bullets and throwing tear gas. Is this what you think of protecting and serving? Because I think it's bullshit. You, Michael Moore. I refuse to call you an officer or a chief because you don't deserve those titles. You are a disgrace
thank you afterward. Thank you for your comments. So these are public comments, and it was hours and hours and hours of that. They keep cutting down how much time people could talk, but the joke on it, I yield my time. I gotta get an I yield my time shirt now. But that's how a lot of people feel. That Michael Moore is like, no, I totally clarified my comment. We're good now. Don't worry about the people being tear gassed all over the place. Don't worry about that.
Regardless to what you may believe, that was not a Zoom bombing that happened there.
Yes, it was not. It was not.
The phenomenon of people busting in on Zoom meetings and finding a way to hack them and then scream profanities into just like, a group of ladies just trying to do a yoga session. That did not happen there. That was actually a concerned citizen that wanted to give the police chief a piece of his mind. Number two, I mentioned this morning in our production meeting. There's this anger that's going across, and it's different with this protest of this magnitude, this size. I've said before, COVID has got people at home, and they've got people scared and worried. Unemployment shooting up the way it has because of it has got people. They've got time. And number two, they've got time to pay attention to what's been going on at a greater scale. So this is nothing new with the Black community, obviously, and many folks that have had concerns with it before. But the action behind it is now. People have been seeing it, and they moving on to actually doing something in partnership in a way, right? The fact that you saw he mentioned Santa Monica and Beverly Hills, or Beverly Hills and somewhere else.
I think
parts of town that aren't traditionally known as the urban areas where those guys hang out. That's where some of these things are happening. And now the spread of information. We got Twitter, we got Instagram, we got Facebook. The videos of these things happening are all over the place. So people now are looking up and going, wait a second. Those cops that we always heard about killing and injuring and randomly maiming Black people, they're doing it to us too. And we see it. Yeah. So there's extra anger now because now they connect with the people that are being assaulted and killed out in the streets. Before, it was just us and other minorities. Yeah. So now when they're seeing indiscriminate massacres by police, they're like, wait a second. Choke on it. I can't say whatever else he said.
Yep.
The anger is now there because they connect to it. It's how humans are, and especially Americans. We don't care until it really, really hits home for us. Yeah.
It's happening to them, but also they're seeing more of it. I mean, what if in the the 90s riots, everyone had an HD camera and could instantly transmit it to everyone? What would we have seen? I can only imagine what the cops were doing during that time.
People took to the streets, and that was in Watts, South Central, after Rodney King. But if it was Parker King who was assaulted, other folks would have been in the streets. Let's keep it real, And I hate to have, it connects with people's real human interactions and the way they want to approach things now. When there's no other recourse. People are finally beginning to realize when you don't have your life to fight for, or when your life is disregarded, you're like, well, what am I afraid of?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's where we are.
I yield my time. Okay, let's briefly play one more. It's not quite as fiery, but still quite good. Here we go.
First things first, Chief Moore, you gotta do a better job of pretending you care about this, man. I've been watching you roll your eyes and offer half-hearted smirks, acting like a teenager who's falling asleep in detention. Are you not aware of the war crimes your department's doing, or are you just that impatient to go do more of them? I see a lot of you, particularly sober-off, only react when folks use being peaceful protesters with cops who murder Black people. You all could pretend to be as angry about murder as the F word. Okay, kids? Ask them. Blind them. Force them indoors with curfews that are announced only a half hour before they take effect, and racially profile as he does so. Don't think I didn't hear about how yesterday you sent out an alert in English saying curfew started at 5 p.m. and sent out an alert right after in Spanish saying it started at 6. What's up with that, bud? All your cute Zoom background photos of the city won't trick us into thinking you care about anyone but yourselves and what's in your pockets. To close with a James Cameron quote, cops think of all non-cops as less than they are. Stupid, weak, and evil. They dehumanize the people they are sworn to protect.
That was good. I don't know who that was, but I like the tone. I like the, what's up with that, bud? Yeah, I think we know somewhat. I mean, look, I live in Culver City. Culver City has one of the earlier curfews. The first day the 4 p.m. curfew was announced, I think I found it 45 minutes before the curfew, and that was because I happened to be on Twitter to see it. They're sending out countywide curfews of 6 p.m. But if you're in one of the areas with a lower curfew, Culver City didn't send out text messages or anything like that. It is a justification to round people up because you hope that they won't know that the curfews are active.
And you know what? You can point out that these types of tactics are age old. Again, it's the change of the technology-based, information-based information age that we're in now. So before, you can set out one alert in English and another alert in Spanish saying the time is 30 minutes different, so you can have a better group of people that you look to target. People can now see that, research it, and spread it, and show everyone what you've been doing. Before, it could just fly right under the radar. And this is the problem. So as you see the leaders of our country start to crack down on information, social media, the president, and things that help spread information so people have a better idea of what's happening, once they try to start shutting that down, who does it sound like? Who do we criticize all the time? Dictatorial countries, North Korea, Russia, all these people that want to make sure that information is silenced to a degree. And certain aspects of the internet are limited so that these things won't happen. And then you get people coming out going, do you know what everybody's doing here? And some of those people that come out and say it are people that we respect, with folks with those white voices that were like, now we got to listen. Because we haven't demonized white people in this country, we've demonized minorities to the degree that when someone else comes on and says something, if a Latino came on and said, hey, I got this text in Spanish that gave false information, but 30 minutes later, you know what the majority of us would say? Oh, yeah, okay, yeah, sure. Are you illegal? Are you supposed to be here? We would miss the point and go back to the same stereotypes and hatred that we have for those people. Because once you just delegitimize their existence, it doesn't matter what they say, it doesn't matter how right they are, no matter what they say, we still got you.
There was, I don't remember what it was, but there was some viral video that was making that point, that the same exact complaints made by Black and brown people would only be accepted if it came through. They got some celebrity to read comments from other people, and I don't remember what it was, but it was basically the point that you were making. I don't remember if it was Tom Hanks or something like that. It was like, this is the only person that the power structure will accept these criticisms from, or something like that. Anyway, let's jump to some of the super chats. I do want to reassure people, because I see, there's a lot of early comments about the fact that we were late. I know one from Zane is, bummer, show's half over before it started. We're going to give you a full show. Don't worry about that. We're going to give you a full show. We're just going to talk twice as fast. No, I'm kidding. But we will do a full show.
I feel like I was talking pretty fast just now, though, so maybe
that's
we
okay.
are.
Just fired up. Denkar says, apparently the 82nd Airborne is occupying D.C. Oh, that's good news for Tom Cotton, who wants to see no quarter given. Does he know what no quarter means? Of course he does. He's in the military. He knows that means summary executions, but he just says it. Matt Gates wants Antifa hunted down. Chubtoad says, it's okay, John. We waited. Thank you, Chubtoad. We tried to get here as fast as we could. AJ Dunas, thank you. Justin says, happy Wednesday, my dudes. Justin, thank you as always for your super chats. Isabel says, I wish the police would take such actions against the criminal in chief as they do with peaceful protesters. Don't hold your breath. Unless there's tear gas. In lots of parts of the country there are. Andrea Hart says, Seattle police were chanting last night after tear gassing protesters around midnight, we're not fired. We need to remind these police that Nazi soldiers were following orders too. Philosopher of Nonsense says, down goes Goebbels, now for rest of Sturmabteilung. That's a little bit of German. I don't necessarily know. But thank you. Real Life Jolie says, sorry, Johnny Pie, but could you maybe stop for like 1 minute so I can go let my cat in from the backyard? Yes, we will pause.
What's happening as we
my
read
time to your cat.
Yeah. Well, I mean, during the super chat reading parties, you're kind of your break to go and do your thing. But
it is.
Sadly, as you go let your cat in, you will miss the fact that we read your.
That's true. It's a break for most people. I don't take a break, even though I'm chugging liquids the entire time. But if you want to take a break, feel free. Jess Ortega sent a photo to hashtag TDR Live, rocking her radical woman tank. Looks awesome, as we knew it would. Gabby Marita sent us a tweet at hashtag TDR Live saying, white people lack object permanence. If it doesn't directly happen to them, then it must not exist. That's pretty good. I like that. And let's see. Over on Twitch, because this is, as all of our content is, live on twitch.tv/TYT, the Kurd Burglar says, I work in a restaurant in St. Louis. We were let out early last night because of threats of riot. My bunker boy loving GM told everyone to be out of the building by 9 p.m. He left at 7:30 and did absolutely nothing to make sure we were out by 9. We left at 10:30. Luckily, everyone is okay. That sounds about right. Yeah. By the way, do you want profiles in Courage? So
I love it.
protests that demanded our politicians be present. I will give you two. One, people trapped on Brooklyn Bridge. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez says, I'm going there, and I'm going to help people. To draw attention to it, if nothing else. Donald Trump has protests outside. He hides in a bunker. I'm just saying. And I have a feeling Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez was not surrounded by soldiers. Trump could have gone out to address the protests surrounded by armed individuals. AOC doesn't have that. She has her Frenchie. She can bring her Frenchie, basically. That's about as much bodyguard as she has. And yet she was willing to go into there where they were tear gassing people. So anyway,
how do you know she has a Frenchie, John?
Because it's all over her social media. Don't try to shame me for knowing what kind of dog she has. Everybody knows that. And it's adorable.
I didn't know.
You don't. You should see it. It's a very, very cute dog. Okay, with that, let's jump back into the news. Since this weekend, we've been hearing that all of this violence, it's not, the righteous outpouring of anger that's been boiling over for literally decades, or outside, cops and things like that, right-wingers. No, it's Antifa. Antifa. They're the big issue, but apparently not. New report, some information leaked to friend of the show, Ken Klippenstein. His report is available at The Nation, and it shows that the FBI's Washington field office, quote, has no intelligence indicating Antifa involvement or presence in the violence that occurred on May 31st during the D.C. area protests over the murder of George Floyd. This is according to an internal FBI situation report obtained exclusively by The Nation, and in particular by Ken Klippenstein, who, man, people love to leak to Kenny Clips. And by the way, so that was for May 31st. The FBI has been issuing such reports daily since the weekend, according to an FBI source, who added that none of these documents contained any evidence of Antifa violence. There are receipts, and Kenny Clips is bringing them.
Well, those rogue agents at the FBI, we know, have been forming a groups of people against Trump since his inauguration, as we've been told over and over again. And then he cleans out house and puts them in with people that don't do anything. So, whenever truth and reality comes out, something has to be done to make sure no more truth or reality comes out, because we're living in a false, fake fantasy world that Donald Trump has created for us. So I don't know how many people see this. How many people actually question what they believed that he said before, and now we need to do something different. But this is just more evidence of it. I don't know. It's at this point, anybody who doesn't know the reality and the truth of how these things work just isn't paying attention, and they don't want to learn. So I mean, there's no need in telling people who aren't listening and just want to go, hey, so the FBI now, because again, in case people forgot, I feel like I'm assuming that we remember all this stuff. He's delegitimized the intelligence communities, certain aspects of law enforcement, of course, because they had to investigate the things that he was doing illegally. So all these things that every time someone has something against him, he has to delegitimize their existence, not the story, not with any kind of proof, not with anything that pushes back or receipts that say the opposite. It's just they're out to get me.
Yeah.
What does fake news mean without any proof?
It
just means I believe so. That's just your opinion, man.
Yeah.
So all these things in pushing to keep people from believing facts that come out are based in opinions, straight up.
He called, do you remember the VA hydroxychloroquine study? He later, that proved that it didn't actually help people and in fact could increase the risk of death. He later referred to that as an enemy document from the deep state operatives in the VA med service. Yeah. Well, apparently the deep state's working with Ken Klippenstein now and leaking documents to him, much to Trump's chagrin, especially since from the time when that FBI report initially is covering, Trump was saying, we're going to designate Antifa as a terrorist organization. Of course, either missing or hoping that you will miss the fact that it's not an organization. He has no legal authority to say that it's a terrorist organization. And even if it were an organization, it is not a terrorist organization. So none of it actually makes any sense.
Also, let's keep in mind that this administration has refused to investigate, to expose findings already also of the rabid white supremacist terrorism organization group that we have in this country. This problem we have with uprisings of white supremacy that has been escalated since he came into office. So if they've escalated and have risen to prominence since he's been in office, why would he go up against them? No, it's strictly a political move. It's strictly something to make sure that he looks a certain way, and those are his buddies. The white supremacists are his buddies. So
we're gonna have a little bit more on that.
They must be the terrorist organization.
Yeah, and look, the thing is, it's Trump, obviously, but it's also Bill Barr. After that tweet, Bill Barr said in a statement, "The violence instigated and carried out by Antifa and other similar groups in connection with the rioting is domestic terrorism and will be treated accordingly." He didn't say if Antifa did this and if it was violent. He said they've done it and it's domestic terrorism, even though the FBI, which he is umbrella in charge of, is saying there's no evidence whatsoever that they're even involved, that they were there. And so the thing that they did find in that report, by the way, was that individuals from a far-right social media group had called for far-right provocateurs to attack federal agents, use automatic weapons against protesters. So there were warnings of violence, but it was for right-wing groups. As Jayar pointed out, those they're not going to talk about. They're not interested in cracking down on that. I don't see Bill Barr talking about designating them as terrorist groups or anything like that.
So, I mean, as we look to mine Americans' web searches and computer searches and things they do online, we'll find these types of things as well. Because, by the way, you don't have to do too much data mining to find white supremacist groups organizing and looking to do damage in the communities online. It's not like it takes a lot. So after they get through mining everyone else's business, are they going to go after these guys too? Are they going to make sure they don't pull these things off? Or are they going to continue to support this type of activity? Because, by the way, Barr is not a stupid person, but he's been saying ignorant, clueless, mindless things because in order to support a president like this, you have to become him. So you have to be void of all normal logic and thought processes. He even did it when he's talking about the mail-in voting issue. He goes, I haven't looked into the issue. I haven't looked into it all, but what I can tell you is that I'm concerned about there being serious fraud.
Yeah.
You literally prefaced it by saying you have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah.
You just need to say it.
He makes all of them as bad as he is. They have to be as ignorant as him, as cowardly as him, as opposed to the media as him, or else he'll strike them down. That's what they are. Okay, a few super chats before we jump into a little bit of good news, actually. The Art of Cataclysm says, Garcetti and this chief need to be forced out, defund and abolish policing as we know it, restructure it to serve the community, not property. Exactly. Care a little bit more about the people in the buildings rather than the buildings themselves. By the way, there was I don't know if it was the Philadelphia Inquirer, headline, Buildings Matter Too.
I hope they were mocking.
No, they're not. And they were saying, buildings can be rebuilt, lives can't come back, but will the buildings be rebuilt? That is important. That's important.
Yeah, because humans, we forgot how to build buildings.
That's true. James Partney says, I still have yet to hear local national news mention that tear gas is a war crime, and certainly is not allowed for use in war. Real Life Jolie says, never mind, just carried my Chromebook to the door for the cat, I believe. I'm glad you were able to fix that problem. David Covert says, so they're looking to Minneapolis police for violation of civil rights, turning the corner or more smoke and mirrors. We'll watch and see, I suppose. Okay, Matthias says, the multicultural mix of protesters is good. United we stand is massively more powerful. Thank goodness for our youth. And from reporters I've seen who are covering these protests and covered, like, for instance, the LA riots, are saying that not only are these geographically more widespread, there were protests in all 50 states yesterday, I believe, but also they are far more diverse.
Yeah.
Barry Lewis says, I always make sure to watch the TDR Hour episodes, but after Floyd, I couldn't. But I was catching up on them and watched Jayar Wednesday, and Jayar spoke with such passion it inspired me to protest. I just want to thank Jayar, John, Anna, Jenk. You guys inspire. Thank you, Barry.
Wow. No, thank you, man.
You created a protester, Jayar.
Wonder what I said.
That's awesome.
Which part? I remember it was last week, right?
Yeah, I mean, that was early. Lil Yumper says, love Jayar Wednesdays. As always, great insights and convo. Keep up the good work, guys. Thank you. R. Owens, thank you for your thank you. Dustin Wilson says, just curious on your thoughts. Third part of the Insurrection Act says, which results in the deprivation of constitutionally secured rights. Why wouldn't that apply to extrajudicial murders? I mean, look, I will say, I believe the Secretary of Defense said earlier today that he doesn't support the use of the Insurrection Act. We'll see after Trump has an angry phone call with him, if that actually holds out. I worry.
God, and he also said he didn't know. This is Mark Esper, you guys. He also said when Trump had his assault march on American citizens and journalists in D.C. for his photo op, Esper also came out and said, I have no idea where we were going. I thought we were going to assess damage to a bathroom that happened the day before. Hey, so you're Mark Esper. You're one of the most powerful people in the country. You're in charge of this. And when your president walks out front of the White House, unprecedented because he wants to look like a tough guy, with a horde of police and military guys in front of him assaulting citizens, you have no idea what's happening. If you have no idea what's happening and you're in charge of it, I don't think you should be there anymore.
No.
Or if you're that guy who's now gets walked out, and then you don't ask the guy who's putting your face and name out there, hey, where are we going? I said this again, this is the morning meeting. If we're at the office, like who knows when we'll ever come back, if Cenk Uygur walks into the middle of the newsroom and says, hey, everybody, hey, JR, come with me. We're going to go outside and we're going to walk somewhere. You know what I'm going to say? I'm going to go, hey, Cenk, where are we going? What are we doing? There's a bunch of cameras too, Cenk. Why is my face next to you walking somewhere? And I don't think Cenk is up to anything. But this guy definitely knows Trump can be up to something. Yeah. You don't ask that question, but days later say, I didn't know what was happening. Come on, man. Come on, bro.
Just trying to cover for himself. Okay, just a couple more. Charles Massey. What's that?
Sorry, I went on a tangent.
That's
we don't have that much time.
Passion. Charles Massey says, JR, did you make This Is Why We Protest? I watched it and it made me angrier the longer I watched it. The truth gets overwhelming and more painful the more it is exposed. Keep up the good work, gentlemen.
I did not.
Interesting. I'm going to look for that.
If I made something that was extended or tried to be, I guess a game changer like that, I would have marked that I did it.
And one more. Carl Jones says, I got into a screaming match with my mom over the protests, and she referred to AOC as that crazy AOC bitch. And I got a lot more angry than I expected. Don't know what that means, but an interesting observation. Yeah, I understand it, because when you have so few politicians you feel like you can trust that you could hold them in two hands cupped together, and people are viciously and dishonestly trying to take them down, when that's all we have between us and insanity and violence, yeah, you should be mad.
Yeah, and honestly, it's an unexpected result of the sheer anger that many of these folks have towards folks like AOC. That the people who are listening to you are going, I don't see that. So since I don't see that, something's wrong with you.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, so we have a bunch more stories I'm hoping to get to. So we're gonna have to restrain ourselves slightly.
Yes, you're right.
But not necessarily immediately, because we've got some good news. I have been waiting to be able to say this for some time. Down goes Steve King. Down goes Steve King. Down goes Steve King. And he'll be replaced by someone probably just as bad. But in a 5-way primary, Mr. King was defeated by Randy Feenstra, a state senator who had the backing of mainstream state and national Republicans. If you don't know who Steve King is, my sweet summer child, I'm glad for you, but we have had to deal with him for some time. JR, how do you feel knowing that this is probably the end of him?
Well, I feel like he's kind of admitted that. It's maybe it's emblematic of where things are going. So for months, I've been very negative about the potential direction of the country. Like I've almost given up on people, not necessarily the country, because we have a lot of good folks here still, but just like the way that we're approaching things is so backwards that I was like, yeah, it doesn't really matter. But things like this, maybe this is one of the things we'll see later, because right now it's lesser on where everything else is going on. But this could kind of be seen as a symbol of the direction things are going. Because Steve King did not serve one term. You know, it's not like he went in there, they discovered he's racist, and they finally turned on him. They supported him and backed him, knowing everything he believes and says and thinks up until now, because it finally got blown up enough. It became a national enough story that people in, Florida, people in North Carolina, people in California, Washington were like, yeah, so that guy, Steve King, hadn't heard much about him, but he's a rabid racist. It got spread, and then to the point where even the Republican Party couldn't continue to support him. Yeah. They had to go, okay, we give up. We have to let go of one racist.
Yeah. Although, look, good news, fireworks, ice cream for everybody. But the guy that's replacing him, Feenstra, when you go to his website, the first thing that pops up is NRAA rating, national right to life, a pro-Trump effective conservative that delivers conservative results. And that message is actually pretty consistent with the way he went after Steve King. Because although, as we're about to show you, Steve King is one of the most enthusiastic white supremacists in the past 20 or 30 years, that isn't what Feenstra attacked him on. He didn't have a problem with the things he said, or at least he understood that criticizing Steve King for those things would not help him to win a Republican primary. No, he just attacked him as being powerless, that Steve King had lost his committee assignments, he couldn't deliver for the district. It wasn't that he was a horrible, horrible person who literally endorsed a candidate for office who would use the 14 words of neo-Nazis. Like an out-and-out neo-Nazi Steve King endorsed. That wasn't what Feenstra campaigned against. It was just, well, sure, he's a white supremacist, but he's an ineffective white supremacist. So we need someone effective is what we need. So bear that in mind.
We need a white supremacist with teeth. Make sure he cuts through all of it and bites down hard. It's not surprising. This is how these things work. And don't think there wasn't some kind of a level of coordination between them stripping him of all these chairmanships or positions on these committees, to think that they didn't now open the door for their candidate to come in and say, hey, he's got no power. That's how it works. You think they didn't coordinate it? When the RNC and the most powerful people in the party back someone, they back them. They don't back them and hope they do well. They back them and make sure they do well.
Yeah. Now, he's gone. But on his way out, I thought it would be fun to do something, I think for the first time. I haven't told Jayar about this, but I happen to have my trash handy. And I thought, since we're in the habit occasionally of pointing out garbage people and throwing them away, wouldn't it be nice to throw someone away, hopefully for good? So, Steve King, it was not nice knowing you. It's going to be delightful to no longer think about you. But on the way out, I want to let you know why he's being consigned to the garbage can for the rest of his life. And if there's an afterlife, probably for that as well. Let's run through a few of the lowlights of Steve King. Back in 2006, before Trump had his wall, Steve King had his. He had a model on the House floor, 12-foot concrete border wall topped with electrified wire. He said, yeah, we want disincentive for people to climb over it, so we can electrify the wire. We do that with livestock all the time. In, 2013, he said, for every one who's a valedictorian, talking about the dreamers and, immigrants and things like that, he says, there's another 100 out there that weigh 130 pounds, and they've got calves the size of cantaloupes because they're hauling 75 pounds of marijuana across the desert. Those people would be legalized with the same act. Does he have any idea how much marijuana it takes to make 75 pounds of it? But that's what he thought these people were. They were not, people contributing to our society. They were just drug runners, effectively. He said in 2016, I would ask you to go back through history and figure out where are these contributions that have been made by these other categories of people you're talking about? Where did any other subgroup of people contribute more to civilization than the white man? Okay, let's jump to, is this 2017, 2018? He has his tweet here with Gert Wilders, another horrible individual I haven't thought about in a while, saying, wishing you successful vote, cultural suicide by demographic transformation must end. So as the demographics of a country change, that is how a society commits suicide. And finally, and this is what lost him those committee assignments and led to him being ousted, he said, white nationalist, white supremacist, Western civilization. How did that language become offensive? Why did I sit in classes teaching me about the merits of our history and our civilization? Yes, white supremacist. When did that become a bad thing?
Did it happen? And, he also tried to talk that one down, too. So, honestly, as you said, he's been going through this for his entire career, his entire life. And so finally, when that last line kind of did him in, he felt the way many white supremacists and racists in this country do. Donald Trump's in office. The gloves can now come off. I can say it more openly now. It's not like, it's a fine line of openness with him because he was pretty damn open before.
Yes.
But now I can really say it and they'll back me. And you know what his main problem is now? He's like, damn it. It's supposed to work this way. You told me, let's go full racism. let's go openly and blatant racism. And you guys turned on me. That's actually probably where in his gut he feels betrayed. He's like, we're all racists.
Yeah.
What you're going to act like you're not now just to get me? That's his problem.
Yeah, he's got to be, man, Steve King's got to be watching. He's like, Trump just called the protesters thugs like 3 days ago, and you're sending me out? Totally. He had like the Star of David in talking about like during the camp, like he gets to do it, but I don't. How unfair this world has become.
Yep.
Good riddance, Steve King, the first to be cast for all times into the trash. Probably won't be the last. In fact, let's transition to some people that might end up there eventually. Donald Trump had his photo op where he tear gassed a bunch of entirely peaceful protesters, including a priest, by the way, to clear an area out for him to awkwardly hold up a Bible and pretend that he had read it. So people have wondered, what do Republicans think about this choice and what it seems to indicate about his stance towards protests in the future? Well, MSNBC had a little mashup of asking all the Republican senators they could to comment on this, and I want you to take a look at these profiles in courage.
The president did last night the right thing to do.
It's McConnell right there.
What the president did, the peaceful protesters that were dispersed with tear gas, he then walked across the street to the church. Was that the right thing to do?
Yeah, no, everyone saw it.
What the president did last night, right?
Running. Oh, by the way, for people that just maybe podcasting, they're all moving after they say something.
Oh yeah, no, this might be at the track. The way they're moving.
Was what the president did last night at St. John's, was that appropriate? Was clearing the protesters an abuse of power?
In his defense, he might be dying. He's having some trouble.
I'm sorry? Yep.
Man, our officials are old. No comment when gassing peaceful protesters.
But I think that he was just trying to make a point. And it's hard in a polarized environment like this. So.
You don't have any comment on what happened at the White House last night?
On the what? The gassing of White House protesters? Do they have a right? I didn't watch that.
Romney. Oh, man.
Senator Enzi.
Brave.
Are you concerned at all about what happened at the White House last night?
Oh, I'm late for lunch.
Yeah, no, you're not going to stop. You're going to put off lunch because of some gas.
Senator Portman, do you think what we saw last night at the White House, was it an abuse of power, what we saw last night outside the White House?
By the protesters, yes. By the violence, yes.
I've heard conflicting things about, the president, the Park Service, the Secret Service.
Okay, no, we're going to stop there because there are more. It's all of them, basically. I think Murkowski implied that what he did was wrong, and that was it. Ted Cruz said that the peaceful protesters were abusing their power. This guy who swears, he wants you to believe that he humps the Constitution every night. That's how much he loves it. He said that they were abusing their power, not the guy who gassed them. Because he has to worship the guy who gassed him, the guy who called his wife ugly and said that his father might have assassinated JFK. That's not the abuse of power. It was the people standing there playing guitar and singing in solidarity. Abuse of power from Ted Cruz, the biggest waxy worm in D.C.
Again, I'll say it like I've said before. Republicans' biggest problem with Donald Trump is that he's doing it too openly. They're all the same people. They enjoy what he's doing behind the scenes. But when they have to answer to it, they got lunch. I don't know. There was the guy threw up the shoulders like he's a walking emoji. So I don't know. I don't know what to say. Oh, man, my advisors aren't here to tell me how the best way to politically answer this question without answering it. Oh, man, I've only got 5 seconds to come up with something. I'm too dumb to come up with reality, and I'm definitely not going to tell you the truth. So it was a parade of weakness and capitulation and knee bending and ring kissing. It's all they are. So we need to see this every time. I say it all the time. Every time he does these things, ask every Republican senator and representative, and you see them a week later, ask them again. Make them answer these questions. They don't want to answer those questions, and they threaten you with, I'm not going to give you any more access if you make me answer a question about what's going on with the leader of my party and leader of the country that I continuously back up. This is a question you need to answer, because if you ask them these questions, these are the answers you'll get, and then people will look up and go, man. And you know what? These things will end up in campaign ads by opponents of these guys.
Yeah, in the wake of the gassing, here's what Ted Cruz had to say, that the protesters were the bad guys.
Never have they been happier with having to put a mask on to protect themselves from COVID-19. Because they're like, maybe people won't recognize it's me. Maybe I can tell them after this ad pops out, no, that wasn't really me. That wasn't Ted Cruz. That was just some other slimy person's snake eyes walking around.
Or just it muffles the sound. Like they could pull a George Costanza, like, I like Flavin. I like Flavin. That's what they're doing. And so they tear gassed. This is what you get from the Republicans. They're not going to do anything. I know I keep hearing that they're supposed to turn on him. They're not turning on him. And the right-wing media, their only reaction was, they're saying it was tear gas when it wasn't tear gas. It was a different gaseous irritant. And that's not even true. It was tear gas. They found tear gas canisters there. But that's like, what do we expect in 8 months? It's 3 days after Joe Biden was supposed to be inaugurated. Trump is still holed up in the bunker in the White House. He dispatches jets that napalm protesters, and Fox News is going to be like, well, technically they mostly use white phosphorus. It wasn't mostly napalm. Come on. Like, I know that sounds crazy now, but they are taking every step that Trump drags them, or maybe not even drag, they might be willingly, but either way, they're following him there. They're not providing a check on him. Pat Robertson said it was wrong. Other than that, that's it. Sean Hannity, Tucker Carlson, the only criticism they've had for Trump is that he is not brutalizing these protesters enough.
And when they've been forced to say something was wrong, they said, well, this is the line that the advisors tell them to say. Well, I wouldn't have said so, or I wouldn't have used that tone. I think we need to tone it down on all fronts. I think we need to. So that's their way of saying Trump was out of control, and what he's doing is un-American, and his tone is the problem. Not his actions. Not the people who were actually assaulted and tear gassed. No, it's the tone. I wouldn't have come with that tone, but what the president was trying to do was this. How do you know that? Mm-hmm. I mean, did you talk to the president about it? You about to have lunch with him so he can tell you to shut the F up and stay away from me? Because that's what he's going to tell you in lunch. Back me up no matter what, like he told them before.
Yeah. Pathetic. Romney's like, he's the one who, like, theoretically, like, votes against him sometimes. But no, the gassing, look, apparently he supports it. Doesn't think it's too far.
Yeah, I mean, I tell you what, whatever, I don't know if it was a Republican lunch that was all put together, if they all go into the cafeteria, but whatever was on the menu must have been damn good because everybody definitely wanted to get the lunch. Like, I got lunch. It's taco day.
Exactly. I'm not gonna miss it. It was Tuesday.
It was Tuesday.
You could be onto something.
Smell
the breath.
Only thing left is LeBron James to walk through and go, Taco Tuesday. Did you see those?
Ridiculous.
LeBron James does Taco Tuesday on Instagram, and he screams Taco Tuesday in the most insane way, and that's all they were doing.
It's very humanizing. Anyway, okay, let's power through it a bit more. I do want to check in on the super chats in a bit, but let's take a look at this. It is seeming more and more day by day that the only people that can put together a particularly effective anti-Trump ad are Republicans who just happen to not like Trump. I want to take a look at this, put together by Republican voters against Trump. This is airing on Fox and Friends. Take a look.
The forgotten men and women of our country will be forgotten no longer. We are one nation, and their pain is our pain.
President Trump tweeting, when the looting starts, the shooting starts.
Their dreams are our dreams.
Unemployment rate past 1 million. Largest unemployment rate since the Depression era.
When you guys put somebody in the car, I said, please don't be too nice. I will fight for you with every breath in my body.
There's a chance that it won't spread. Within a couple of days, it's going to be down to close to zero.
This American carnage stops right here and stops right now.
These ads write themselves.
They do.
Like I was saying, with the Republicans walking through and making sure they don't say anything, the most calculated human being in America are politicians. That's just who they are. Every move, every step they take is calculated to make sure they get reelected. That's all it is. And Donald Trump doesn't know how to do that. So his manner is just brutality, hatred, and getting the backing of insane people. And that it's put on full display. He just hopes there's enough bad people in the country that enjoy that.
It was devastating. Every week brings more footage, and all of it, Trump just willingly providing it. It's like he doesn't want to be reelected. It could have been the easiest reelection in modern history. Biden is not a strong candidate for reasons we have repeated ad nauseum, but he seems dead set on going down and taking down the country with him. Really fast, Republican voters against Trump, Bill Kristol and all them, screw them. I got no interest in them. It's a good ad. I don't care about any of them. Disagree with everything, and I hope that they're successful in stopping Trump and then never successful in getting what they want in a presidential election again for the rest of their life, because they're genuinely terrible people. But Trump is also terrible, and this is a good ad that makes it clear. I saw, I think it was Dave Weigel. He had on Twitter, it was the Real Clear Politics polling average at this point in presidential elections going back to 2008. And for Hillary Clinton versus Trump, and for both of Obama's runs, at this point, they were at around a 1.5 point advantage over the Republican. We sort of remember Obama having easy election, easy re-election, but it was actually very close at this point. Biden's at 8. And he's gone up a lot in the past month. Almost none of it has anything to do with Biden, by the way. And it can evaporate as quickly as it came. But Trump is just, I guess he's in a position where he has to remind his base of who he is and who they want him to be. He's a brutal, violent proto-dictator.
Yeah.
But nobody outside of his base wants that. And so it is hurting him in the numbers.
And now they're just hoping they'll hold on, and then we'll see the confirmation of the true nature of the country. Because maybe, Republicans that are teetering on the edge are like, well, I don't know which way to go. Because, all politicians do is blow with the wind and see which way is going to keep them in office. So they're like, hey, if I got to be a racist, I can do that. If I got to suddenly act like I give a damn about police killing black folks, fine, I'll say that too. But I really won't do anything. So whatever gets me back in office, because that's what I need. I need power and I need the money. That's all it is.
Yeah, and so I saw a comment saying, with all that's going on, John can't let go of his Biden hate. It's not hate to acknowledge that he's not a good candidate. That's not what I'm doing. I'm not driven by... There's politicians I hate. I like to think I make it pretty clear who I hate. I hate Donald Trump. He's my arch nemesis for probably my entire life. Don't hate Biden. Just think Biden could be a much better candidate, a much better politician if he had different values, or at least stressed them in his legislation. If he stopped putting his foot in his mouth constantly. That's all I'm saying. Don't hate him.
And
anyway,
with that being an issue, he still has an 8-point lead. We're talking about how bad of a candidate Trump is.
Exactly. So I am seeing very fast. I just want to let you know that apparently Keith Ellison is elevating the charges against Chauvin, and there will be charges against the 3 others involved. So this is breaking news. I can just give you a little. Obviously, this is live, but apparently that is happening now. I don't know what I just did. Friggin' ads. Anyway, so look, Keith Ellison being involved give us reason to believe that potentially it could lead to more appropriate charges. It looks like they are going in that direction. We'll see, and we'll be watching. But this is some pretty good breaking news live on the Damage Report.
Yeah.
Do you think? No, continue. I yield my time.
You can ask. Well, this is how things get done. Obviously people have been pressuring and pushing for this to go further, have been posting about how thousands of protesters and folks have been arrested and brutalized, but then we haven't been able to arrest 4 officers. So those type of awareness posts and those type of numbers are stark. So, people have to pay attention now. You had W writing a full article today, or maybe it was yesterday, about how there's injustice in America and Black Americans haven't seen much injustice. We got much justice, and we have to switch the systems and make sure that there's an equal nation. This is George W. Bush we're talking about here. So again, still fly and move with the winds of change. That's all he's got, and that's all. So they're reading the way the country's going in certain aspects, and I guess I got to get on board now, because that definitely wasn't the case when this guy was in office. And he knows enough people may have forgotten or weren't paying attention or weren't around enough at the time to really remember who he was and who his administration was.
Yeah, and some people are forgetting. Look, the charges. This is good. This entire thing is not just about that incident, obviously. There were multiple other people who were brutalized right around there, Breonna Taylor and Ahmaud Arbery and others as well. This is about this application of justice and also proactive justice to change the system to make sure that those things don't happen. So that's good, and this is what Keith Ellison is in charge of. He's not in charge of reforming American law enforcement, but this is not like the end of it. On the George W. Bush, if he wants to tell Republicans to vote against Trump, good. I want that because I want Trump to lose. Yeah. And then after that, go back to your ranch. I don't want to see you. You're one of the worst people our country has ever produced, George W. Bush. By the way, you murdered more. You were responsible for more death and carnage than almost anyone else in the history of our country.
Yeah, no, most everything W said in that statement was so on point, which tells you that they can be. Even if it was written for him, he put his name to it. So it shows that they can and have the ability to see reality. It's a choice not to, because they believe and know that the country just isn't there. So they wouldn't get elected if, as a Republican, they say things that are truthful. They'd get called rhinos and kicked out of the party. Justin Amash, anyone? So that's how it works. If you speak truth while you're in office, you might as well not be in office because we're going to run you out. They know the truth. They know the reality. They just choose not to because that's not the job.
Yeah. And Justin Amash might be the only right-winger right now pushing for reform to law enforcement. He's apparently been freed up by the fact that he's been jettisoned from his party. The rest, like, think about what that means, that none of them in the media, in the party, except for the guy they kicked out, can acknowledge with all of what's going on that anything needs to change. Even the most shallow, tiny change. They can't admit anything needs to change. It is all perfect. Your protest has nothing legitimate to it. There is no reason for any of your rage. Insanity.
Yep.
Now, really fast, I'm seeing Keith Ellison is going to elevate the charges against Chauvin to second-degree murder. The 3 other charges are going to be charged with aiding and abetting murder. Which, look, I'm not a lawyer. That seems appropriate. We'll see. It's still a long way off from them spending time in prison, but this is a more positive news on a day.
I mean, and I hope there's some form of legislation or something as part of the reforms that will be put in place that will not allow officers that have been fired for brutality to be rehired by another police force 10 miles away in the next county. So, because that happens all the time. So we just recycle bad cops back into the bad system of bad law enforcement. So this needs to be all put in place so it doesn't continue to happen, because we think we just quelled fears by, oh, you got fired. Oh, yeah, you got charged with aiding and abetting. Then after they serve whatever they're going to serve, they go right back into it. If you get, sorry, John, I'm talking way over this, but if you work at McDonald's and you're giving out fries just to your friends, I know I've said this analogy, but this is how it works. If you're handing out fries to your friends just when they come in, because it's a slow time on a Tuesday, guess who's going to get fired? Johnny that works down at McDonald's. And then when homie wants to go over to Burger King, be like, oh, so you've worked at McDonald's, what happened there? Be like, oh yeah, I was giving out fries that cost the company change to make. And they go, oh, well, you're not working here because you're going to do that again here. Why doesn't that same level of responsibility and accountability apply to police officers who have life and death choices in their hands, carry guns and weapons of assault on them on a daily basis, and are told by their superiors, hey, crack some skulls if you need to?
Yeah.
How come that level of responsibility isn't put in place? But we have that over some cut up potatoes that are thrown in some hot oil.
Yeah. You're really focused on these fries. But I understand where you're coming from. Okay, let's I know that this is something that you wanted to talk about, and I find it to be hilarious as well. So let's turn to this now. Over the weekend, Donald Trump accrued a new nickname, Bunker Boy, sometimes Bunker Baby, and it's because when protesters were outside of the White House, he fled as far underground as possible to the bunker. Or did he? Because he wants you to now believe that that's not actually what happened. It was all just a coincidence that he was in the bunker.
What could you tell me Sunday night was like for you and your family?
Well, it was a false report. I wasn't down. I went down during the day, and I was there for a tiny, little short period of time, and it was much more for an inspection. There was no problem during the day. The problem, I saw Leland got whacked pretty good, but that was during the night. And these problems are during the night, not during the day. And I've gone down 2 or 3 times, all for inspection. And you go there, someday you may need it, but you go there, and I went down, I looked at it, it was during the day, it was not a problem. and I read about it like a big thing. There was never a problem. We never had a problem. Nobody ever came close to giving us a problem.
Okay.
So what I got of it was that it was during the day.
Yeah, he thinks, wait, if I say I went to the day, then it wouldn't make sense that it was based on fear. I got him. Okay, and also, hey, I wasn't scared. It was just a coincidence. I needed to inspect the bunker. After all, I've done it. He goes on to say, I've inspected the bunker 2.5 times as president. Okay, you've been president for 3.5 years, so on average you do it not even once a year. You just happened to inspect it on the day of the protest? That is a mighty fine coincidence for you, bunker boy.
Yeah, I checked it out. You mentioned the 2.5 times, right? Did you mention the 2.5 times?
Mm-hmm.
So 2.5 times. So how is it you inspect a bunker a half a time? And also, those other 2 times that you went were for a very tiny, short period of time. So for the half a time you went, how short was the time? So a half of a tiny amount of time to inspect. What did you inspect? What did you check out? To make sure that the Berber carpet was clean?
Why?
What are you inspecting about this bunker?
Why would he be inspecting it in the first place? If a nuke is on its way to DC, they hustle him down and drag him into the bunker. It's not like he goes in if he likes the decor. He's not going to. It's not gold. He has to go in there if it's an actual threat. It's such BS. And look, I understand, does this matter? No. The nicknames don't matter. None of it matters. Substantively, the issue is that he has no interest in bringing people together and he has no interest in any sort of reform because he's an authoritarian and authoritarians don't constrain the power of the police state, obviously. That's the thing. But if this can get through to one red hat wearer that thinks this guy is some sort of alpha or tough guy, he ran to the bunker when there was no threat to him whatsoever. The same guy who had bone spurs during Vietnam, who told you that if he was outside of Marjorie Stoneman Douglas, he would have run in even without a gun. He would have run in to take down the shooter. He doesn't walk over to protesters with guitars because of how scared he is. He flees the bunker even for that. And so, substantively, does this matter? Perhaps not. But if you still follow this guy, and if you follow him out of some belief that he's tough or strong or what this country needs, this is who he is. He's
straight up
and soft.
So as he's talking about how he went for inspections, let's not forget Caitlin Collins of CNN reported yesterday that she has sources. You know how that works. And so that one of the driving factors behind his assault march on protesters and journalists in D.C. for his photo op, half the reason was he was tired and annoyed with the negative coverage of the bunker boy and all those hashtags that went for him running and hiding in his bunker. That was part of his motivation. He's like, I got to show them I'm a tough guy. That was it. Mm-hmm. He didn't like the negative coverage of what had happened, so now he's still stuck on it. This guy is absolutely obsessed with his image not being seen as a weakling because he is a weakling. It's just how it works. And number 2, for the folks that are jumping on my tweets talking about, the Secret Service makes these decisions. It's not Trump's decision. Stop saying it's on him. You know what he said during that interview? Kill me to ask him. He goes, so did the Secret Service whisk you away and did you have to listen to them? He goes, no, I do what I want. Mm-hmm. Secret Service can suggest what they want, but that wasn't what happened. I didn't listen to them. So next time you tell me that I don't know how it works and that Trump actually had to get whisked away by Secret Service because that's the professionals behind him, listen to what he said.
Yeah.
It happens 100% of the time. Anyone who defends him and comes up with some BS excuse for why he's doing what he's doing, he blows up your excuse right there because he doesn't have any excuses. He shoots himself in the foot, and you guys lie down on top of his feet to take the bullet in the back.
Yeah.
So,
strength.
It had to be addressed.
It had to. You know what's brave? Talking to people. Talk to the people you disagree with. Don't run away from them. And don't tear gas them so that they're not anywhere near you when you take your little stroll to the church that you don't even go to. Guarantee his first plan was to walk to a McDonald's. I guarantee it. But they settled on church. He has a little bit more experience in one. Again, it all comes back to fries. It is the fry theory of politics, basically. Okay, let's super fast run through this last story. Just because, again, I dark times call for funny news occasionally. Meghan McCain doesn't like Trump, but she hates the chaos more. She hates what's going on in America. And so she tweeted this: "My neighborhood in Manhattan is eviscerated and looks like a war zone. De Blasio and Cuomo are an utter disgrace. This is not America. Our leaders have abandoned us and continue to let great American cities burn to the ground and be destroyed. I never could have fathomed this." So she's sitting there, brought up in great privilege and wealth beyond anything you can imagine. And she is in a war zone. Except is she? Because Kristen Bartlett, who is the co-head writer for Full Frontal with Samantha Bee, tweeted, "Megan, we live in the same building and I just walked outside. It's fine." Oh, the real-time fact check. That hurts on the war zone talk. There was also one other tweet I liked. Mike Drucker tweeted, "Someone left an empty Snapple on the sidewalk and now you don't support civil rights." That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Okay, so reality always strikes people in the face, and you wonder, now, what is the motivation? Once the truth gets told, what is motivation? And again, I'm going to refer back to, again, if it wasn't for any of these other, for the fact checks that you said happened in real time on social media, this could just fly by and people go, well, why would you not believe Meghan McCain? She said so. There's no motivation for her to lie about this. So now that we know she's lying about it, what is the motivation for her to lie about it? It's to continue to pursue this same narrative of saying that people are destroying her community, quell those people, protesters are looters, looters are protesters, people killing cops and citizens killing black folks indiscriminately in the streets is also fake, because that's where this actually came from. It delegitimizes everything. So Meghan McCain, lying about what's going on, decides to go ahead and try to make sure that this narrative continues to get pushed. Yeah. That is the end game. For whatever reason you may want to believe it, or for whatever reason she got fooled into believing that all those folks are just all criminals, that's also wrong. So even if she's too idiotic to get how it works, that's no excuse. Figure it out. Learn for yourself.
Yeah, people in the comments, Philosopher of Nonsense is saying Meghan McCain equals Republican, and someone else, oh, the pup, another person said Meghan McCain's a dink. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, she's paid a lot, and that seems to have convinced her that she knows what she's talking about. That's not how it actually works. And also, financially, that's how it works, but that's not how it actually works.
Also, she also realizes that people are going to have more sympathy for her because it's Meghan McCain, rich daughter of a former powerful senator and icon of the military. She knows that people are going to believe her more, or be like, oh, well, yeah, Meghan, you're dealing with stuff. But if a no-name Black, Latino, any one person gets assaulted and says, you know what happened to me? There's no cameras there. This has been countless times. This is what happened to me. This is what they did to me. We go, yeah, sure. Whatever. We know you're lying, and move on. That's why the whole video proof of police violence has to be a reality, because if we don't show that, you're just going to write us off. Nobody writes off Meghan McCain until some people now do, because someone else had to jump on and talk about the BS that she's spewing.
Yeah, and it's funny, obviously. Here's why it matters, though. Poor dog. I know, I don't like her commentary either. They need to replace her. Here's why it matters. Because Meghan McCain is the perfect embodiment of the sort of person that will criticize Donald Trump for the tonal stuff, the like inappropriate stuff, but fundamentally wants exactly that policy, who values stability and her peaceful little brunchy world more than actual peace or justice for the sort of people that she would never be caught dead speaking to for even a second. She will criticize Trump, sure, but when it comes to, like, I don't know, now there's protests, I'm briefly uncomfortable as I, gaze down on the protests from probably a multi-million-dollar apartment, I'm going to guess. That's where she draws the line, and that's where many of them draw the line. Tucker Carlson, he's supposed to be he's not an elitist, he's a populist. He represents the people. He understands the plight of the working man. Wait, there's protests? No. Nuke them. I don't care. Shut it down. They want you to believe that they're populist, that they care about the experience of regular people as a branding exercise, a ploy to get you to buy their books or support their Patreon or whatever. But as soon as the chaos starts to actually challenge the placid, comfortable existence that they have day to day, they're not interested anymore. Okay, and that's why they're demonizing. That's why Meghan McCain is actively spreading misinformation to try to get the police to bash these people into silence.
And to get the general population to also be against it. Once we start getting it personal, like, oh yeah, our communities are being destroyed now, they're coming for us. Who do we blame? Got to blame those protesters / looters / black folks getting murdered by cops. It all comes lumps together. And you have to get enough people on your side. That's why they're reeling a bit now, because there's a large section of the country that's no longer buying it.
Yeah.
Of people that matter to them. The ones that aren't the ones being assaulted on a daily basis.
Yeah. Doug Dabalina says, Tucker is a plopulist. That's why he always looks constipated. Dun-dun-dun. Anyway, JR, thank you for joining us for this super-sized belated episode of the Damage Report. Appreciate you
Super-sized? Like French fries?
Fry Theory Politics. Coming out this fall.
It's all coming
from
back.
Simon & Schuster. I'm going to write that. Should probably give you some credit. Anyway, JR, thank you as always.
Thank you. Always fun. See you guys next time.
Have a good one. Everybody who's at home, I have to do 2 quick dog-related things. Stick around for 30 seconds, and then I'm going to catch up on the Super Chats. I'll be right back. This is Abby, and Abby has been very impatient to go outside. She just wants to go outside and walk around. So I'm going to let her outside, but everyone enjoy a little sight of Abby. Okay, everyone. This has been some episode. Let's see what everyone thinks about it. What's been going on out there? Samantha Smith had said, in Arkansas, protests are being threatened by white supremacist groups on top of Cotton Brain's violent remarks and the governor's escalation. That is the true threat. Trendy as Dabber says, Jimmy Dore, Ron Placone, and Tim Black all endorse my Trendy Pain Oil. Can I send you both free jars? I'm not familiar with the Trendy Pain Oil, but thank you for the offer. Lisa B says, will you report on how the FBI found no links with Antifa in DC protests? Lisa B, we did. We were all over that Kenny Clips reporting earlier in the show, but thank you. Marcus of Terra says, are you going to cover the LA Commission Zoom call? Folks were vocal and clear on their anger. We did for that as well, Marcus of Terra, but thank you for the super chat. Bradley Gosser says, police in Lexington, Kentucky continue to march, kneel, pray with, and hug protesters in the 5th night of protests. Peaceful police equal peaceful protest. Bradley has been keeping us up to date on that day by day. Thank you, and I hope that the situation stays. By the way, one of my producers wrote into the document, give me Sprocket or give me death. Sprocket is JR's dog. We gotta get him to show Sprocket. I think he did once. Nappy-headed Nose says, we need to do a boycott of all non-essential spending. The powers that be only cares when it affects their profits. Yeah. Well, and we saw that in the response to the pandemic as well. Camille Andreasen says, this is my first time watching TDR Live, and since you were late, I didn't miss anything. Well, that worked out very well for you then. Thank you. Brian says, how about that meme that Antifa was going to loot neighborhoods that was actually posted by a white nationalist group? Yes, Identity Europa, I believe. Have to be on the watch out for that. Carol Stevens, thank you. Wilson B says, hey, Senator Collins, still think your POTUS has learned his lesson? Is he now presidential enough for you? So humbled, isn't he? 100% right. Hopefully Senator Collins will follow Steve King into the dustbin of history by losing later this year. Comic Book University says, ask Fred Hampton about the FBI dividing America. I'm going to have to look that one up, but thank you. Gianna H says, Boomer Mother sent me a YouTube video with a full-on conspiracy about how all of this is actors, fake, and a Dem plot to prevent Trump from winning 2020. They claim this is Obamagate. Set her straight. Gianna, I wish you the best of luck with that. But I am going to say that if she thinks that 50 states worth of protest for multiple days is all an Obamagate plot, I don't know what's going to convince her otherwise. But best of luck to you. The Progressive Linguist says, sending love to everyone in the movement. Me as well. Thank you, Progressive Linguist. Alyssa says, America is awakening at the social injustice that has been exacerbated under this administration's divisiveness. Why are so many blind to this? Yeah, I at this point can only hope that more do wake up. Kurt says, now going to go protest because if I see cops abuse, I'll end up arrested. Now because Trump threatens, I have no choice. We need 200+ million in the streets. It might come to that. We got the protest now and looking forward to potentially protests following the election if he doesn't accept the results. Verena says, drove 6 hours to Berlin to protest on Saturday. Best I could do. Thanks for all you guys do. You're important. You make a difference. Never doubt it. Thank you, Verena. And that is quite a lot to drive 6 hours. Appreciate you doing that. And the fact that these protests are going on in other parts of the world is amazing to me. And I'm sure the people organizing have got to be inspired by that. Zane says, down goes Steve King. I'm going to miss his books and his book suggestions like Camp of the Saints, one of the most racist books ever written. Charlie Ellis says, you need a shredder, not a trash can for that picture. Someday, or at least a garbage can with a fire in it. Kurt says, Thug Kitchen, go vegan. Violence begets violence. Kurtz, thank you. Real Life Jolly says, local Target in Illinois vandalized on Sunday, but there was no looting because some lady placed herself in front of the doors to keep the looters out. I wasn't familiar with that, but thank you. Des Boys Fleisch says, you know law enforcement got issues when there are thousands of people in front of the U.S. Embassy in Berlin chanting Black Lives Matter. Exactly. And apparently some of them TDR viewers. Misanthropic Humanist, thank you. Ginger Red Shoe says, JR Wednesday is everything I needed today. Ginger, it is for me too. The weeks fly by. I feel like JR was just on the show, but I do all of our guests. Like, I don't just have them on just to have them on. I have them on because I need them to be on. I need to touch base with these people each week. Brad Slaughter says, a video got released in Sarasota, Florida, where another cop put their knee on a black person's neck in excessive force. Big protests happening downtown. I saw one in, I think, Seattle as well. The whole knee thing. Like, to do that now. How? How could you possibly think that was okay? How could you have thought that? But how could you think that? Tarukin said, damn. Not sure to what. Almost any news merits that these days, but thank you. Zane says, worthless, stupid Lincoln projection BS GOP. Yeah, and that's why I said, screw the people. But I like the ads. Lorna says, Bo of the Fifth Column has a good video of how to reform police. One violation, you're sacked. Any violation, and the department loses federal funding and aid. Interesting, thank you. Alley Cat says, bunker bitch. That seems to be spreading. Chub Toad says, Chauvin upgraded second-degree murder. Yes, we did end up talking about that, but thank you for the super chat letting me know. It's messages like that, by the way, that alert me to the breaking news that we then cover. So thank you. Hiroshi says, I like the dog. Skatari says, I relate to Pupper's whining on a spiritual level. And Real Life Jolly gave me an emoji of a dog. Hiroshi says, hi, Abby. Man, you guys loved the commentary from off screen by the dog. So normally we would have like Craig or Edwin or Bart laughing off camera. Now we have dogs whining to go out. Shay Smith says, I sent this yesterday, but you couldn't get to it. All good. My point was police are doing the very thing we're protesting against, violence against us. Shay, thank you for both. And yeah, much of the rioting going on is state-sanctioned rioting from the police. Kurt says, the bunker is under 18. Trump had to inspect it. I've been watching that Epstein documentary. Whew. Okay. On hashtag TDR Live, Trueblade says, someone get Jayar Jackson some fries. Sounds like the man needs some carbs. Yeah, he had fries on the mind. But who doesn't these days? Let's see. Over on Twitch, Zerberus TV says, how long do you think it will take Trump to blame the cops who murdered Floyd for his bad poll numbers? Yeah, he hasn't really gotten around to that. Right now, he's in the mode of just saying, no, I have polls that say I'm winning. But at some point, he's going to have someone to blame. And it can't just be his campaign manager forever. Let's see. And the Kurd burglar said, speaking of, part of what's so scary about the non-zero chance of a second civil war, other than obvious things, is it wouldn't necessarily be geographically based. There would be higher concentrations in different areas, but I live in Missouri, and it would be wildly split here. Learning through Facebook, I went to high school with a lot of racists. Facebook is a great place to learn that the people you knew when you were young were racists. Yeah. Anyway, everybody, thank you so much for watching the show, bearing with us with the technical issues early on. I believe we gave you more than an hour in the end, but I do appreciate you supporting us in the variety of ways that you do. The super chats definitely help when you donate to tyt.com/go. That helps the company. And just watching the show, commenting along. It both provides financial support for the show and the network, but also provides me much needed intellectual and emotional support, which I need to continue to go as the home-based shooting extends into the third month, the fourth month. I don't know. Every week is the same. I am drifting in a white void like John Oliver, but minus board games. Anyway, thank you all. More to come later in this week, and I'll also be on the main show later today, so enjoy that. Have a good one and stay safe.